I have a confession to make. How to begin? Like this. I feel as if my downfall, physical and perhaps even psychological, might result from the fact that when traveling overseas, I have absolutely no resolve when it comes to saying no to certain foods that I should not be eating and certain beverages that I should not be drinking. I was recently in Oaxaca, Mexico with my wife, and before we went, all of our friends and neighbors were reciting all of these infuriating platitudes, don't drink the water, don't eat the street food. And of course, I'm not going to drink the water, but of course, I'm going to eat the street food. I love street food, especially when I'm traveling. I feel as if, however reductive this sounds, that the street food culture of a place provides a window, however small, um, into the culture at large, into the story of that culture at large. And so I was on this dusty back alley of Oaxaca, Mexico, and there was a hunchbacked old Zapotec woman who came up to about here on me. Um, she was running a street food stall, and on one side of it, she had this just mound of blue corn masa dough, and on the other side was this comal, this outdoor flat top griddle, and there was a downturned chalkboard easel in the dust in front of her, and there was a list of 7 potential taco fillings, written in Spanish, of course, on that easel. So when somebody ordered a taco from her, she would peel off a pinch of that blue corn masa dough, flatten it right there between her palms, and toast it on that outdoor comal, that griddle, until it charred and blistered and filled the air with um, that smell. It was just intoxicating. And so um, I went up to her and I read all of the fillings on the downturned chalkboard easel, and I have a little bit of a handle on Spanish, not much, and I understood what 6 of the 7 potential taco fillings meant in English, and exhibiting the characteristic for which my wife so often chastises me. I chose the 7th, the one that I didn't understand. Um, Maybe you know what this means. I didn't know what this meant. It was sesos. I ordered a taco de sesos. Um, this hunchbacked old Zapotec woman, she looks at me, stares into my eyes, and she says, Sesos. Tú eres serioso. Sesos. You're serious. And I didn't know quite what she meant by that. Um, but serious is not something that I'm often called. And so I felt bemused by that, taken aback, substantial, filled out, super heroic even, or at least tough to knock over. There, on the streets of Oaxaca, Mexico, at least in front of this hunchbacked old Zapotec woman's outdoor comal, I was serious, finally serious. Um, and so she pinches off that piece of blue corn masa dough and flattens it between her palms, makes this beautiful tortilla right there in front of me, scatters it on top of the griddle. And then she drops to her knees in the dust, and she retrieves from beneath her outdoor comal this white plastic bucket, okay? And inexplicably, the label on the side of the white plastic bucket is written in both Spanish and English. Now, while I admitted Spanish is a language I imperfectly understand, I feel as if I have a pretty good handle on English. And so I understood the translation. Sesos, you all, are pork brains, pig brains. Uh, Reading that, my once hungry stomach kind of recoiled into the recesses of my rib cage. Um, and I was nervous. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against brain. I like brain. I've eaten plenty of brain. I've just never, up until this point, eaten the brain of a pig, and moreover, I've never eaten the brain of a pig as street food in a dusty back alley of Oaxaca, Mexico. So that made me nervous. Um, what made me even more nervous was that in my wife's first language, English is her second language, in her first language, there's this phrase that, when directly translated into English, goes something like this: if you eat the brain of the pig, you will see the wind blow, which means you will go crazy. Yeah, so that made me nervous. Um, so she retrieves this bucket, stands again, dips an ungloved hand into it, comes up with a fistful of gray matter, which is cut into chunks, and she kind of scatters the gray matter over the outdoor comal next to that beautiful, blistering blue corn tortilla that's about half cooked now. And these brain chunks begin to hiss and pop and steam. Um, Eventually, she deems them sufficiently cooked, and with a spatula about as long as my forearm, she scoops them off of the griddle, ladles them into this beautiful blue corn tortilla, tops it with a little bit of shredded lettuce, pickled radish, tomato, salsas verde and rojo, and a little bit of a thin guacamole. And she rounds the comal, um, approaches me, so we're just about belly to belly, me and this hunchbacked old Zapotec woman who comes up to about here. And she lifts, as if it's some kind of holy grail, this pork brain taco to my mouth. And I think for a minute she's going to feed me. But she doesn't. And I take the taco from her, and now I'm holding it to my mouth, and I'm hesitant. But she's right there. She doesn't leave. There's a line, but she doesn't take anybody else's order yet. And she's looking at me, and she's waiting for me to take a bite. And I look around, and there's no way out of this. She called me serious. And so I bow to the taco, and I take a bite. And you all, it was awful. I, I wish I could say it was delicious. I wish I could say it subverted my expectations, but it didn't. It was terrible. Uh, it tasted precisely organic, meaning like an organ. Irony and bloody and minerally and a little sawdusty, a little rough, very rough, a lot rough. But I took that bite, and I gave her a tight-lipped grin, and I think I hummed. And she seemed satisfied with that, and she rounded her comal again, and took somebody else's order, and I took that as my cue to kind of disappear up the street, and I feel terrible about doing this because I hate wasting food, but I scooped the contents of the taco into a trash can. I still feel bad about that, but I ate the tortilla, even though, it was soaked through with a bit of brain juice. I ate the tortilla because it was so beautiful. I couldn't bear to throw that beautiful corn tortilla away. That night, suffering from a little bit of intestinal duress back at the Hotel Las Golondrinas and this flat my wife and I rented there briefly, I had this dream. And I'm sorry for subjecting you to this. I hate it when people tell me their dreams. It's always so boring, I can't empathize because clearly I wasn't there in their dream. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna tell you my dream. In the dream, I'm nude, on all fours, in a meadow, in this field of tall grass. And I'm feeling both vulnerable but kind of suffused with this sense of peace because the temperature is downright balmy, dream balmy. It's so beautiful and perfectly balmy in a way that it isn't in waking life. And the sky is this cracking blue, and the sun is out, and it's warm, and the wind is stirring the tall grass just so that it's undulating back and forth like a metronome, and it's incredibly peaceful. And I'm there and I'm lowing to the earth, nosing the warm soil as if I'm a cow or something. And I look up and I notice on the horizon in the distance this pair of disembodied blue jeans legs. Just these kind of blue jeans legs dancing there on the horizon where field of tall grass meets sky in the distance. And um, as I look at these legs, they start walking toward me, and with every step closer they get to me, the temperature in the dream seems to drop a degree or so, and clouds start to knit together in the sky, and it's not balmy anymore, and the sky is not this cracking blue any longer, and with every step that these blue jeans disembodied legs take toward me, as I'm there on all fours, nude, lowing to the earth, this sense of peace slowly becomes this sense of menace. And I start shivering. And soon, before too long, these legs are upon me. They're right there in my face, and I dare to look up. And as I do, the legs sprout a torso, and arms, and a head. And I'm being stared down upon by this stereotypical farmer figure with a pot belly, in overalls and a straw hat, and he's wielding an axe over his head, and he takes that one final step toward me and brings the axe down, whack, and buries it right between my eyes into my skull. And because it's a dream, I feel no pain, but I do feel the chill of the blade. And when I go cross-eyed at the top, I could see the axe handle angling out of my forehead, and I wake screaming, "Ah, ah, ah, where am I? Where am I? Where am I?" And my wife, who was previously snoring demurely next to me, is roused out of sleep by my screaming. I often wake screaming. And And she says, "Baby, it's okay. It's okay. We're in Oaxaca, Mexico. We're in Hotel Las Golondrinas, baby. You just had a bad dream. It's okay." And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And she's so generous, I mean, I roused her out of sleep, but she's like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And I'm like, yeah, I think I do. And we turn on our nightstand lamps and sit up in bed, and I tell her the dream. And we worked through it a little bit there in the middle of the night and in the flat in Oaxaca, Mexico, my stomach burbling. And she helps me realize what it's all about. Just after about 5 minutes of talking about it, and I come to realize that there, in that dream, I was anointed with the vision of that poor pig who died for my taco.